Then there was Hal Eisner and his band of attorneys all deciding together that the defense needed a superstar witness, one that could get in there with all the power and strength to combat this very, very strong offense by the prosecution. And Dr. Paul White shows up, and what happened?
Well, Dr. Paul White, I think,
Was he the superstar?
I think he was a superstar in the sense that he came off very well. I think his demeanor was good. I think in a lot of ways he helped the defense. In some ways he hurt the defense. He solidified the witnesses of the prosecution that this, in a sense, was a deviation from the standard of care, and that he's never seen a situation where an anesthetic is administered in the home.
But he did
It's a
say,
sleep aid, right? Yeah.
Yes.
He did say, here is an example of how Michael Jackson could have died if we believe Dr. Murray and what he said on that police tape.
That is true. And he also pointed out that there were other drugs that were being given to him at the time as well.
Lorazepam.
Lorazepam. Demerol was another one from Dr. Klein. So there were some other narcotics that were given to Michael Jackson, which could have contributed to his death.
It's that cocktail of drugs that we hear about.
That's right.
Let's listen to some tape from Dr. Paul White, some of his testimony in the case.
Okay.
Well, I believe it potentially could have lethal consequences.
Why is that?
Because you're rapidly administering a bolus dose of propofol on top of a very high concentration of a benzodiazepine, lorazepam, and also additionally a small amount of midazolam. So you've got drugs that have additive or even synergistic effects, and I think the combination effect would be very profound.
Now, from one court observer, it seemed that at some point when he got very, very technical, the jury began to appear to wander off, that people were sort of rolling their eyes and nodding off and things like that. The danger of having a witness who's very technical and soft-spoken like he is, tell me about that with the jury.
You know, then it becomes the job of the attorney to make those statements into plain speech, basically converting those statements into plain speech that the jury can understand. I think the jury, in that particular portion of his testimony, you could see he's explaining basically lots of different types of medication. Add that all together, it's a bad
cocktail.
Bad cocktail at that point. So it's up to the attorney at that point to really explain what all those particular medications are and what they mean.
Was there a better witness for the defense, or this was the guy? It's make it or break it with this guy?
I think the key to this case has always been the non-scientific witnesses.
Really?
I do. I think the scientific witnesses are important, but they were pretty consistent throughout. The two witnesses that I really thought were really important were Alvarez was one of them, and the other one was Miss Lee.
Well, Alvarez being a prosecution witness,
That's
Cheryl
right.
Lee being a defense witness.
That's right.
And we have her sound as well. She's the nurse practitioner who really talked about that she knew Michael Jackson had a problem with insomnia. He said he needed drugs to fall asleep, and she said, you might not wake up one day, but let's hear some more of her tape.
Well, I was actually there on the 19th of the morning is to prepare a smoothie for him and to give him a B12 shot, and that's in my notes.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
And he did bring up the fact that he's having a lot of difficulty sleeping.
Okay. And then he brought up the idea of you to come and stay with him that night?
Yes.
And you agreed
Yes.
to do that. And he wanted you to do that, he said, because he wanted to show you that he was unable to sleep.
Yes.
And he told you that he had sort of a maybe 2 to 3 hour pattern of sleep, and then he would wake up?
Yes.
Is that what he told you?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And you did stay there that night?
Yes, I did.
At some point during the evening, we really didn't nail down the time that you went up to the room, but would it be fair to say it was sometime after 11?
Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed your medical records?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Okay.
We didn't show the part where she got very emotional.
Yes.
That's right.
Which, excuse me, which showed her depth of caring for Michael Jackson.
Right.
And on top of that, she took notes and saved her notes.
That's right.
So she's a very credible witness for the defense.
She's a very credible witness. There isn't one juror on that jury that doesn't look at her and believe every word that she says, and that's why I think she's actually a very good witness for the defense. She proves a lot of things for the defense. That Michael Jackson had insomnia, that's clear. That he knew about propofol. That he's self-administered it, or wanted to self-administer it, at least at a certain point. There's a statement that he said to her, "I want you to stay and watch the equipment, I'll be fine." To me, that was a critical piece of evidence. To me, that is the key piece of evidence for the defense.
She also painted a picture that he was comfortable with an IV.
That's right. And she would actually administer IVs for him, although they were nutritional IVs.
Yeah.
These were IVs that were administered for him. So he was very comfortable with having IVs and basically the whole process of having an IV.
So the standard of care that Michael Jackson sort of administered to himself seemed to kind of go along with what she was saying, and Dr. Murray just kind of joined in. It appears that way from the defense side.
I think an argument, and I think this is a reasonable argument for the defense to make, maybe Miss Lee was a lucky one. Maybe Michael Jackson survived the night that maybe he did it. He administered propofol to himself, and it wasn't the same thing with Dr. Murray. That's an argument that can be made. I mean, there's a lot of other evidence that you can use to rebut that, and I'm sure the prosecution will on rebuttal. But that is critical to show that this is a process that has actually occurred before, or at least something that he's thought about and perhaps has done before.
All right, get ready for Conrad Murray, the movie. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, new details on a documentary that follows Dr. Murray through the trial. We'll talk about that next. Well, this recently came out. A documentary about Dr. Murray has been in the works since he was charged in Michael Jackson's death. There are reports tonight that Murray will get a piece of the profits when it's sold, and he's hoping to take in $1 million to help pay off his legal bills. The camera crew got several detailed interviews with the doctor long before the trial even began. In case he went to jail, of course, the price would go up or down depending on what the verdict might be.
Decio,
there's the deal.
Smart move on behalf of his attorneys?
I think that's a horrible move.
Really?
Well, for one thing, we don't know what's going to happen in this case. There could always be another trial. We don't know. Civil trials are always a possibility as well. This is all these things can be used against him at a later time.
And I'm going to bring up what I know Leo Terrell loves to just rail on, and that is that there's always the possibility, not that the cases both sides have rested, that the jurors go home, they turn on the TV, and they hear this news.
That's right.
That could really impact the juror's decision, no?
That's absolutely right. I mean, we hope that jurors will turn the channel, obviously, if they see anything in regards to the Murray case. It's a promise that they make at the beginning of a case, but you never know what they're going to hear, what they're going to overhear, and it would be very easy for them to hear something that might impact them.
Well, we know he has huge legal bills. I mean, of course, it's a very big case, and his team is, not cheap. My question for you is, do you think this had anything to do with him deciding to testify on his own behalf or not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think this is a decision he made along with his attorneys. I don't think this would have an impact as to whether or not why he didn't testify.
Can you blame him for wanting to make some money somehow? Because everyone's saying he's going to lose his license.
Yeah, I think you have to make a living. That's absolutely right, but I don't know if this is the way to go about it. I mean, I just don't see this as being the way to go about it.
And of course, we've mentioned this before, and that is that he may lose his license in the United States of America, but he could go to Jamaica and practice. He can go to any other country and practice, and he's a famous guy now.
That's right.
Because the trial has actually made him quite popular. So it's an interesting thing to take a look at, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come right back.
Some final thoughts with our expert, Decio Rangel. All right, so tomorrow, the closing arguments. How long do you go with these?
This will be done within 2 days, and that's actually a long time. You want to keep the jury's attention, so you really don't want to go too long. I think they should be done definitely within 2 days, maybe even tomorrow.
And as you said, the prosecution goes first, the defense presents their final arguments, and then the prosecution gets to rebut those final arguments as well.
That's right. That's a huge advantage for the prosecution to be able to have the last word.
And jurors, Do you think they're ready to be done with this? It's been over 5 weeks, been 6 weeks.
They are itching to go into the jury room and start talking about the case, something they have not been allowed to do. And you're right, as you said at the beginning of the show, that absolutely it could be a quick verdict because they are ready to talk about it and they are ready to perhaps come to a verdict.
All right, Decio, thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. TMZ coming up next.
Good night.